Welcome to the Mystic Cast. I'm your host, GLO. Tuning in again is Centaur, and we have fascinating topics today. We're going to be discussing his book. We're going to be discussing my book, Lacanian Fantasy, and RPGs. So get excited. Um,
So,
so, so first, how are you? You got a nice black shirt. You got bright white teeth, which is better than mine. So
you
how's
drinking too much coffee? Too much of that fine homebrew?
I have the darkest cold brew from a Tokyo drip tower.
Yeah, I saw that on your last cast. It's a pretty shiny bauble you got. Pretty cool stuff.
It's
Uh, my
the
wife got me an espresso machine for Christmas, and I'm sort of just like, how much did you pay for this? What am I going to do with this thing? I use it every day. It's nice.
so the Tokyo cold brew. I mean, you could make it out of wood
Okay.
and flasks, and I think the whole setup you could probably do for 150 if you're handy carving wood, which I'm not. And it's not a complex process because it was done in the 1600s by Dutch sailors. They realized that a cold brew coffee uh, preserves better. And then when they came to Japan, the Japanese took it to the next level. Um, but so for me, it's a much stronger coffee. It's something that I enjoy, and it's something that allows me to read books and to analyze books. And um, so there's your book, and I have your book. I have to show the camera up there. So I have kind of like a Lacanian meta-analysis. Originally, I was going to write an article, but so I guess my interpretation, maybe my team's interpretation is, so you went okay. So the pandemic was tough on you, right? Because how do I phrase it?
I
it
went crazy, right?
okay, it was tough.
Yeah. So I was working remote sales gig for a big German software company. Up
Okay,
until that point, I'm listening to all these folks saying, hey, we're a data driven organization, right? And just a cursory read of the data around COVID was just like, there is no reason I should be locked down in my home
right.
with a toddler with nothing to do besides work for this fucking software company who
Okay,
are, you know, some of their biggest customers were Pfizer and the CDC. So, like, follow the
okay,
money there. Um, but tearing my hair out in an area of the country that is very liberal and like, can you guys just please pay attention to the insanity that's going on? Hey, here's a document. Here's a podcast. Here's Alex Berenson. Even one of my great friends who is, I would say, smarter than me. He's an intellectual heavyweight, right? He swallowed the propaganda. And now, only now, people are peeling back like, oh, it wasn't so bad. People didn't lose their jobs. The vaccines, whatever, they're safe and effective. It's like, are you boosted now? Are you still boosted?
hmm,
So you don't win a lot of arguments with facts and reasoning. And because this had been stewing in my mind for so long, just like, how am I going to explain this to my kids when they come of age and
okay.
they're in high school, maybe? God forbid they're in a public high school classroom, but maybe that'll be the case. And, you know, they get a retcon of the pandemic.
Right.
And when that topic comes up, it's just like, stop everything. You're going to read this book about what really happened, and you're going to like it because it has dick and fart jokes in it.
So, okay, so I guess the way I understand you, right? So I read your book, and so I have a feel for your internal process, and vice versa. Is okay. So you're in advertising, just like this Isaac is, right? Isaac Simpson.
I am a tech bro.
Okay, you're, but you said you were working in advertising for this company during the pandemic.
Sales, remote sales gig.
Okay, so sales. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, sorry. So I guess one of your strengths is, from a Canadian standpoint, an ability to build fantasy and an ability to build narrative, right? So that's what you did in your book. You built this robust narrative or fantasy. Usually, fantasy is a response to trauma, and the pandemic was traumatic for all of us, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of interactions, which I got lost in. But I was thinking like this guy went through a lot, and he built kind of a fantasy to kind of shore himself up in the middle of it. That, I guess, that's my reading of your book. It's just that I guess you're an American guy born in the U.S. I guess in a right wing kind of context, and you
Yep.
believed in a certain uh, big other symbolic network of how law is supposed to work, right?
Right.
And they threw that out the window and said, "We're gonna put poison in your body. Go fuck yourself," right? Um, is that and 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 then during the pandemic, you wrote this book?
No, it had been stewing in my mind for a while. So actually, one of the falling actions was January 6th, which, if you read the book, there's, some dog whistles to January 6th there in
Okay.
the climax. I started writing it in 2024 after
Okay.
enough time had passed where my kids were of an age where I'd have a little bit more leisure time. And yeah, over the course of a year, cranked it out. Like it's 250 pages. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say that it's good to have fantasy and escapism when
Okay.
you're faced with psychic trauma. Tolkien. I'm not Tolkien, but
Hmm.
part of part of his book was influenced by his experience in the First World War, and same thing with C.S. Lewis. Um, I I guess George R. R. Martin was traumatized from being a fat kid, so he writes about buff guys getting killed for no reason. Um, you can always do a Freudian analysis on why people write what they write, but also part of it was like, okay, here I am working in the matrix,
Right.
helping software companies build HR, SaaS, or whatever the hell.
Okay.
I need a tangible artifact from my life. Everything else that I've done is pretty ephemeral, and that includes some of my hobbies, right? Which is, playing music, playing guitar, and it's like,
Okay.
okay, I'm not necessarily professional enough to record, and I do play for pleasure, and I'll play for my family, but again, they'll just have a memory of that. So I wanted a tangible good looking artifact. And also, you were instrumental in that. When I saw the cover of your book, uh, called you up and you're just like, hey, this is a pain in the ass. You got to do it right.
Do it. Please do it. Line it up well,
Yep.
because if if your stuff isn't lined up well, they're just going to dismiss it off of these instrumental. Um, so okay, so I guess I discussed white women make sex gay with Isaac Simpson. I guess for our listeners who didn't hear that podcast, it was about how white Protestant women destroyed fantasy the way Martin Luther destroyed the fantasy of the Catholic Church, reducing things down. And that's a Nietzschean critique, right? But I guess on the other side of that, what's exciting about you is that your book's exciting. It has an exciting aesthetic. The characters have an exciting aesthetic. You chose an exciting color palette, right? Um, so I guess really the antidote to white women make sex gay is the RPG dad. But
Okay.
because it's not just that they make sex gay, they make the house gay. They
Right.
ruin the magic of Christmas, they ruin the magic of dinner. It's just an HR, right? And the person who can remedy that is someone, I believe, like you, who will go out of their way to make a creation, an aesthetic, to you say, I wrote this for my children, right? So If you're going to write a fantasy narrative for your children, I'm sure the play that you're involved with in your kids involves a lot of narrative structures, which builds them up verbally, intellectually, right?
Yeah,
And makes the world richer. And you've referenced a lot of books, and I'm sure you read a lot to your children.
we do.
So like, I see you as an antidote to white women make sex gay. You know
Yeah.
the
Well, and it's certainly not my wife, and she's traditional in a lot of aspects, but I would say in the good ways. But I wrote an article a year ago called "Make Your Children Hard to Kill," and
okay,
it's basically like, it's my swing on the longhouse, which look at the percentage of educators who are female, look at the percentage of educators who are liberal, look at the percentage of educators who identify as Marxist or communist, and the percentages are
okay,
pretty overwhelming there. So, my kids, when you in your formative years, yeah, you need mommy, right? You need the longhouse. But when you're upright and starting to reason and move around and start being dangerous, right? And dangerous doesn't necessarily mean bad. Like mom's the safe space, dad's the adventure space. And adventures can take place on many planes, right? There's
right.
adventures of the body, adventures of the mind, adventures of the spirit. So that's what I wanted to do with this book. And, I also wanted to turn the Washington Monument into a big cock that erupted swamp juice.
Well, but it is though. You don't have to turn anything into anything. That's just what it is.
Yeah, I
So,
tried to do some digital art for it, and ChatGPT, despite my machinations, would not give me like an uncircumcised cock shooting water into the reflecting pool. No matter how I tried. So
well, you,
I'll have to
I
commission an
am
artist
very
for
good
that.
at finessing ChatGPT into things. I am the ChatGPT whisperer, and sometimes you got to space out the requests, and then you combine them,
Right, right.
and
Yeah, got to negotiate with the robot and its
you got to
programs.
negotiate with the robots. If especially if it's a white Protestant woman making sex gay, that's
Yeah,
definitely a robot. Um, I guess, yeah, I guess that like I don't know. I think what's exciting about you and you as a writer is I, in a way kind of like your commitment to fantasy and your commitment to writing because I know you're going through a hard time right now, um, um, but I guess like you're still pushing. You know what I mean? And for me to see that is so amazing. Like that's like I don't know, like for me, like I'm it's easy to perform when you have it going well, but you're performing, when when your wife's going through sickness. So that's a kind
yeah,
of inspiration, right? And
yeah.
hopefully it's
She's a
inspiration for
trooper.
your children.
She's in the hospital right now. It sucks. People are resilient, right? And there's going to be times like I'm not going to cry on the podcast right now, but I have people in my life when I need to that's available for me. So other than that, like one of the silver linings is I'm home alone today, home alone
Okay.
tonight. I'm gonna cook a steak with my friend. That's cool.
Okay.
Um, and then the rest of the time, like I don't know, it's like you get to carry a yoke, you get to be useful, you get to build a callus in ways you didn't think you would. So um, it's not directly happening to me either. Um, the tragedy is my wife has really fucking beautiful hair. Uh,
Okay.
we're not going to see it again until February.
Okay. Well, hmm. I guess I don't know. I guess the issue with hardships is that they give you an opportunity to rebuild, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes, um, with that space can be used as an opportunity to rebuild and restructure, um, and to come into yourself. Like you said, okay, like I'm cooking steak. Uh, you can become better at cooking. You could refine your culinary processes, right?
Yeah.
So, like let's say like with your book, right? Like you went through tremendous trauma during the pandemic, and in response, you became a better writer. And because you wrote that book, now I'm in your life, right?
Right.
Um, Once again, you're going through trauma, and in that space, you have the opportunity to start cooking better, um,
Yeah. One of
rebuild your
the
domestic processes, and it'll force you to become a better person. It's so easy to be so distracted with all of our social media, but I like your approach that you're cooking steak with your friends, because tangible stuff really makes trauma easier to deal with, you
yeah,
know?
for sure.
Um,
But the other, you get overtures from people, and you get the classic overture, hey, anything I can do, let me know. And I actually ran a little bit of an experiment with that
yeah.
and saw who was serious about it. And no questions asked. My cousin came over.
Okay.
He helped me chop down a tree in my backyard that's been
Okay.
dead. It's like the mast of the Argo, right? It's been ready to go for a while, and he came over with his gear and his chainsaws and stuff. We pulled down the tree together, which was terrifying for me because I'd never
Okay.
done
Yeah,
it
it is
before.
scary.
And now I have wood for the winter, some
Okay.
nice cherry wood to
Okay.
roast s'mores with the boys.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like making lemonade, brother.
So yeah, I guess that so the other aspect of this, okay, so that's your family,
Yep.
right? But my relation to you is you wrote a right wing, or we could argue a far right book. And when you did that, you hailed me in the um, Althazar sense, right? Hailed, and and I guess I'm performing. We're ideologically aligned, even though I come to, I guess, your beliefs through a different mechanism. But I don't know. Like, it's like, what can your far right shitlord friends do for you? Because you know we're in the same Substack uh, zone. You know what I mean? Like, I'm your I'm your ally in your political fight. You know what I mean? Like, we
Yeah.
we write against the same ideological adversary, right?
Yeah, I would say you're definitely a top consigliere in that space. Um,
So
I will plug the Tortuga Society, which
okay,
Walt Bismarck had set up, and it's basically a fraternity for guys in my orbit. Most of them
okay,
are a little bit younger, um,
okay,
and it's. I mean, I think you talked to Bingo Bobbins maybe 6 months ago,
yeah,
and that guy's a dude, and I think a polymath, even though he won't admit it. Um, and it lays out a lot of the principles that you laid out in your book, which is, hey, how do we get a remote job? How do we get guys like us successful? How do we get guys like us owning property again? Where can we find asymmetric wins?
okay. So okay, is your job something that can be done remotely?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Okay,
a lot of what I do is work with, well, larger tech companies and
okay,
well, system integration solutions, right? So I've been doing it remotely for 6 or 7 years now.
okay,
So a long time. I was working remote before it was cool, but like
okay,
the job is out there in the field, go see customers and partners in person.
okay. And then what I'll tell you. So in here's my, if I was to help you in a religious standpoint, in Judaism, there's something called tikkun, which is to say that people fall so they can rebuild, right? Um, and I'll tell you that medical care is a lot cheaper in Mexico.
Yep.
And if your wife is recovering, you could save a lot on medical care. And while you're saving a lot of medical care, you could save a lot on um, cost of living and taxes, because you would not qualify for American taxes in Mexico. And under $130,000, you would be tax free.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about that topic lately. How do I put this? It's probably a non-starter at this juncture with my wife, which is understandable. We have a pretty good tribe here. Um, One of the reasons I'm eager to cook tonight is I get to set aside all the anti casseroles um, that have been crowding our fridge. Like all aunts and uncles and stuff have been
Okay.
sending us meals, which is awesome. Um,
Okay.
but
So
yeah,
that
I've
so
been
that's
thinking
good.
about
I
like
mean, in a
cooking.
way, you're connecting with them, right? So that's,
Yeah,
maybe to pivot at that, right? So maybe, I know at some family funerals, I would reconnect with family members, and I could rebuild those ties, because as we become older, right, we become different people, and we rediscover our family members, right?
yeah, yeah.
So,
It's nice. So there's familial bonds, which are probably the greatest barrier to geo arbitrage. At
okay.
the same time, I did an exercise for my father for his birthday. He's 78 now, and I traced our genealogy and did the whole patrilineal line, and
Okay.
it terminates all the way in 1353 in England. And I'm going to give
Okay.
you a history quiz.
Oh,
Do you
shit.
know what happened in 1353 in England?
Um, did they, like, Magna Carta? Maybe no.
Close. So this is the end of the bubonic plague.
Oh fuck.
Is where
Okay.
the records stop,
Okay.
which that was pretty interesting. So, concurrent with the publication of my book, I learned, hey, the first record of my family pops up right after this giant plague sweeps through Europe.
Okay.
And then ancestors came to America as
Okay.
the Puritans, tax
Okay.
revolt, and then a bunch of them converted to Mormonism and were part of the Oregon Trail. But
Okay.
all that goes back to your thesis of geographical arbitrage. So, like, I know it's in my bones, it's in my DNA, and it's sort of wrestling like, well, am I being faithless and abandoning ship, or is it time to do what's best for my antecedents and go somewhere else?
I think I think when you're in a tough time, it's a good time for value discovery, right? So I know in our conservative spaces, people kind of double down and go back into the center. But a lot of times there's people on the edges that where you discover your arbitrage the most, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I guess, like I'm at the edge of your network, right?
Okay.
Um, so much so that you have questions about my Marxism, and that's how I'm at the edge of your network, right? And so there's a lot of discovery there, and there's a lot of new opportunities. Also, are you someone who writes with fountain pens?
I write with a Sharpie, but based on your recommendation, I have a fountain pen coming in the mail. I'm gonna see how
What
it goes.
what kind of fountain pen do you have coming in the mail?
Um, it's one of like the $30 ones.
Okay, so okay, cool.
Maybe
And then does it
$20.
does it have a do you have a converter?
You got to be computer literate to use a
A
fountain pen.
converter allows your fountain pen to suck up a different kind of ink.
Okay.
And I have a lot of inks that I enjoy, because I'm a tactile learner. And what I do is the books you see behind me, I rewrote them.
Okay.
And so I have notebooks, and what I do is I physically rewrite books because I'm a physical guy. You can see that.
Right.
Um, so okay, well, and then do you have a good notebook?
I do. Holy smokes! Hope that didn't scorch the audio. I write with this. So black and red notebook. I like the paper quality. Um,
Okay, you have good paper quality.
good paper quality, good spiral quality. I'm endeavoring to get
You
like a
got a little
giant
quiet on me.
journal. I want to keep my work shit separate from my creative shit.
Can you adjust your audio? You got a little quiet on me.
Yeah, let's see. Can you hear me now?
Can you be louder for me?
Let's see. It was in the perfect position. How's that now?
A little quiet.
A little quiet
You
still?
just got quieter.
Holy smokes. This is a new mic here.
Okay.
Should we do this?
Oh yeah. Is that good?
I don't know. I don't want to fuck up the audio for the podcast.
Okay, it's better. We'll roll. We'll roll with it.
Okay, cool.
So
Well,
yeah.
this is
So I
stand-up
guess
podcasting here.
the technical parts of the podcast are the hardest part of the podcast for me.
You guys are doing
I've-
great. Your setup's like,
Oh my! If you only knew what went into this. This was a. I had a like for me. What was really frustrating was for a long time. Like I'd have high level theory, and then people like I don't like your podcast setup, and it was just so castrating. Uh, because like why don't you listen to my words? Like why are you so focused on what I'm sitting on? Like you need the lamp closer to you. Like it was really upsetting. Um, I guess like that.
you got a set now.
Yeah. Now I got a leather couch. Because in Mexico all furniture is a lot cheaper and you can get much higher quality stuff.
Dude,
Um,
the Wayfair mafia and furniture in the US, the expense versus quality, it's dog shit. You're better
yeah,
off buying antiques.
yeah. So I guess that's going on. Hold on. What is your favorite color? What colors do you like?
To write in,
Yeah. Or
I guess
or
black.
so like what colors do you like?
Yeah, black.
Okay. Something that's not black. Or you're a black fundamentalist.
Let's. I am a black fundamentalist, but
Oh
not the
no.
way you might imagine. Um, Shit, dude, I had this geography teacher in seventh grade, and take out your blue, black, or purple ink pen. So I guess I would do a royal purple.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I guess okay, let's kind of keep shifting things along. So we had white women make sex gay, but I guess you with your robustness, you have a tendency of when you're pushed down, you tend to create robust things like your book over here, right? And we discussed, I guess, your book with regards to fantasy. One of the things, so as I was reading your book, um, it seems like you played a lot of RPGs, right?
Yeah, for sure. That made it easy to structure the plot. The plot is a Zelda game, right? Go to a dungeon, get the treasure, get out of the dungeon, maybe fight a boss.
So can you what's the like? It just seems like so much work to like run an RPG. Like, it seems like you have to be a low level author, like a script writer, um, to
Yeah.
do this. Like, what goes into that?
So it hurt. This hurt my brain. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done,
Okay,
even though the plot structure was relatively paint by numbers. Um, I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew that I wanted spoiler, I knew that I wanted to see Anthony Fauci get his face pissed on until it melted off.
Okay.
Uh, and so I had an ending in mind. I had conspiracy theories in mind that I love, right? Um, and I had sort of an aesthetic in mind, which is mostly kind of Final Fantasy VI inspired. I don't know how well that was conveyed. Like there's an
Okay.
airship in there and it's vaguely steampunk. Um, but yeah, put some plot pieces in there based on, what I know about the last 20 years of rudiments of American policy, some stuff
Okay.
about QAnon that I found delightful to explore and write about in a more fantastical type of way. And then there's a large section at the end, which is paint by numbers Dante's Inferno. So uh, there was a template in place, and then the rest was just adding jokes, adding humor, some blocking. Um, I wrote like the ancient legend, which is the legend of QAnon, about you know Tucker Carlson, Vladimir Putin, Joe Rogan, and others fighting a demon together, which enacted a cataclysm 10,000 years ago.
Okay.
Um, I took a half aid of acid and wrote that on one Sunday morning. So yeah, there's a lot of upgrades and performance enhancers you can use if you're dead set on doing this. The only way to do it is to do it. I think I've read enough fantasy books to have a good
Okay.
template. I was worried that it wasn't literary enough, but then I realized I'm not really writing a literary book. I'm writing something that's a fun, sort of contemporary warning and redemption story.
Okay. And so I guess the way I understand your book, or maybe the process, is that before writing this book, you played a lot of RPGs,
Yeah. Hmm.
Dungeons and Dragons, right? So
Never,
that
never
built
really
that built your
tabletop stuff.
process. Is
Never
that
really tabletop stuff. Although one of my favorite books growing up was the D&D Monster Manual.
oh, I love that.
Beautiful artwork in there. Um, yeah, I think I'm still of the age where I'm a couple years older than you and grew up in probably the most historically Republican county in the United States, uh,
Okay.
in Western Nevada. I don't think they voted for a Democrat there since 1898.
Okay.
Uh, Crazy Cowtown, um, but as such, coming of age around 9/11, being 15, like being a gamer was gay enough, and then being a tabletop gamer, whole new
Okay.
level, right? Like Pokemon shit was for the nerds, so I had to be a closet or RPG gamer.
Okay.
You can't play football in RPGs, but yes, I played a lot of RPGs and I played football.
Okay. And so that's where you learned your narrative structure,
Yeah, I think
right? And
the
that
people wrapped in. I also read a lot as a kid. I read the Narnia books when I was pretty young.
okay.
I read The Hobbit a bunch of
Have
times.
you read Hitchhiker's Guide?
I've read the first book. It was
Okay.
excellent. I'd love to return to the series. That was something I was trying to emulate. Is Douglas Adams, Terry Pratchett. They're a lot more, wry, clever, understated. For me, this is more of like pie in the face type of humor.
Right.
But they're English, and I reserve the right to be as American as I want.
If you're American, you got to be American.
Yep.
There's no way, there's no out of that. Okay, and then you're how old are your kids right now? What are they doing?
They're
So how does
four.
that inform your parenting? I guess that's my question.
No, they're 4 and 6. How do I parent them?
I mean, that's 4 and 6 is peak fantasy age, right? So they must be having a blast.
Yeah, yeah. We play games like that outside. We play sports. Um, every night before bed, when I'm home, I practice my wrestling moves on them. Vice
Nice.
versa. Let them take me down. So it's a lot of fun, and like me, they're obsessed with the occult. So the Halloween shit is already out, and they love that kind of stuff.
Do you have board games for your kids?
we've done board games. You know, they're very active, frenetic kids, and getting them to sit down and play a board game,
Okay.
that'll come with time. I'm not going to rush it. One thing we do have is the Nex Playground, which is like an AR video game system. You
Okay.
put a camera down, their whole body video game experiences.
Okay.
So it's much better than, in my opinion, sitting in front of the TV and passively consuming something,
Okay.
or just exercising your thumbs, which you know kind of disembodies you.
Okay. So that you got a very physical kid.
Very very
You-
physical. Yeah, my 6 year old. I mean, he's six, right? He's downright violent, which is fine.
Yeah. I wrote an article recently. It's called "Be the Man Your 5-Year-Old Self Wanted You to
Oh
Be."
man, I clicked on that. There was a great tit on that article. Great
Um.
fun.
So yeah, it's I try and get the clickbaitiest clickbait. But it's interesting in that the 5-year-old boy is the most right wing individual.
Yeah,
They really are, and like I remember I had a client, and he's Dutch,
okay.
and so his father died, and his mother remarried a woman, and he went to this lesbian wedding with his 5-year-old, and the 5-year-old was vehemently against it in a Sharia law kind of way.
Right.
He objected violently, and I guess for me, what's very interesting is that no one instilled those traditional values in the 5-year-old.
Yeah.
He
No.
just had them innately, like a little Plato,
Yeah.
there's truth and how the world should be, and he's going to enforce that at a lesbian wedding.
I
I
mean,
think.
I think Richard Dawkins coined the term meme, right? Which is, you know, in the 80s or something like that. But it means memory gene. And it goes back to like Jungian psychoanalysis, where, not everything is purely material and mechanistic, even though Dawkins would argue so, although I think he's been kind of pantsed lately. Calls himself a cultural Christian.
Okay.
All right. He also famously he's refused to even entertain the notion of taking psychedelics because I think deep down he knows there's a
He's
spiritual
going to have to
realm.
deal with God in whatever form
Yeah.
God will present himself to.
Or a
To them.
demon, right? But whatever.
I think he deserves a demon. I think if you've been shit talking God for as long as he has, I think it's demon time.
Well, hope springs eternal.
I think, well, like, you, sometimes you need to go down to go up,
Right.
and you send him a demon to really kind of poke him into where he should be going.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, right wing 5 year olds. When we first got my son in sports, he's playing baseball. I was like, do you like
Okay.
baseball? He's like, yeah, I like it. It's like, why do you like it? He's like, I like it because there's no girls allowed. And he goes to Blue Hair Teacher Academy, so it's just funny.
Okay. Um. Yeah. No. I just the innate right wingness of 5-year-olds. Um. For me was really interesting. It for me it also felt like there were a lot of more like when we were young. Wait, how old are you again? You're in your 40s, late 30s.
38. Old enough to have to think about how old I am.
Okay, so when we were kids, there was a lot more stuff for us to consume. Right, there were Power Rangers, there was Pokemon, there was a whole host of things that we could boy over. Right, what do your kids have now?
Um, yeah, my son was watching like this wolf superhero show that was pretty male coded. Um, but I think I see your point. Everything is I'm failing to find the word for it, but it's genderless. There's a lot of genderless kids entertainment, but the boys are gravitating towards, Ninja Turtles is evergreen. They
Okay,
were
Ninja
watching that the
Turtles.
other day. I
Okay,
haven't, you got to keep an eye on what the kids watch. We don't allow YouTube unless we curate it because
yeah,
a lot
please.
of that stuff is like they're just secret toy commercials, right? It's
Okay,
people unboxing toys or doing fanfic with toys and God knows what else. But
okay.
yeah, there's a diminution of male coded consumer packaged good type of stuff, action figures,
Are
whatever.
Transformers still cool?
Yeah, and actually, the new animated movie that came out a couple years ago
Okay.
is pretty good. It's maybe as good or better as the first one that came out with Megan Fox all those years ago. It was sick.
Because I remember I loved Transformers. I thought it
Yeah.
was the coolest thing that a robot could also be a fire truck. I liked robots and fire trucks, so to have a two-in-one robot fire truck was, at 5 years old, that was a red pill for me.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
that some fire trucks are also robots.
Yeah,
And
I'm not gonna get my son the Bruce Jenner action figure. I'll tell you that.
oh Jesus Christ! Oh my God! Um, what a so I guess maybe that's kind of my main point is right. So like there is a symbolic order, right? So a religious one, a cultural one, and we could argue that that symbolic order betrayed us or revealed its true face, maybe. And then here you are raising a family, and then through your book, in a way, you have to construct a new symbolic order,
Yeah,
which is a big task because you have to create your own universe that from there makes sense, right? Like but on the other hand, if your ancestors came as Puritans and then they later became Mormons, maybe they felt disconnected from their Puritan symbolic order and needed to create something that's libidinally more robust in the Utah desert. Is that
yeah. I think we've seen cyclical religious revivals throughout
okay?
American history. I think Mormonism was part of that first Great Awakening, uh,
Okay.
but also there's an insidious side to it too. Joseph Smith arguably was just trying to fuck as many women as possible, and this was his workaround. Literate enough to understand scripture and say, "Hey, I'm doing my Bible fanfic here in America, this new mysterious world, and rumors from the frontier of pre-existing stone structures." There's a conspiracy theory that I just learned about, which is the gold dome over the Denver state capitol that
Okay.
was there when the settlers arrived, that type of
Okay.
shit. But regardless of whether it's true or not, the people at the time believed that there could be a lost civilization, across the plains of America in the Great Basin Desert, that kind of thing. And Joseph Smith kind of capitalized on that. So it was a very romantic period. And you look at, okay, cool. I came to America as a tax refugee, came here to get rich. I bled for this country, and now it's American Gothic. Well, if my wife is going to be American Gothic wife, can I at least have two side pieces?
Right. Well, I mean, I guess he's trying to fuck as many women as possible, but he did create Mormons, which are the backbone of the American FBI.
Yes, very interesting. Uh, Super astute contact. They're the perfect American, and also Utah is very puzzling to a lot of people because I'm not a MAGA fanboy, but Utah is like the last bastion of Mitt Romney conservatism, which is
Okay.
essentially globalism, right? Um, which I find very interesting given how culturally conservative Mormons are in most other ways. But they seem to be good pro regime zealots.
They're wholesome too. I think they have strong families,
Yes,
and then they have a very good work ethic,
yes.
which most Americans do not by
I
a
grew
long
up.
shot.
I grew up playing football with a bunch of Mormon kids, and
Okay.
just great dudes.
But
Great, great dad.
they legitimately try. They don't have like the American nihilism. They will really go for it.
Yeah, I think one of the ways that they don't have that is they're very comfortable with like kind of Kierkegaardian leap of faith into the absurd.
Okay.
Like if you have a Mormon friend and you point out shit in the Book of Mormon that clearly didn't happen or is crazy, they could just
Mhm.
go, "Yeah, that's a little crazy." Anyway, do you want to go get a burger?
Very
It,
positive. I
it,
like that.
people might call it cognitive dissonance, but I don't think so. I think they do a really good job of compartmentalizing the spiritual side and grappling with that. And that allows them to be very practical and useful, good people in
Well,
general.
if I'm in the middle of Utah in the 1800s, maybe I need a magic wizard story to keep me going.
For
And
sure.
that is practical. And maybe the wizard story, I guess from my perspective, whatever that's worth, wasn't very well written, but it was written well enough to keep them going through the desert or whatever climate Utah is,
Yeah.
and into creating a good civilization, right? Or a good. So if there's kind of like the noble lie, like Plato's noble lie, and if the lie got them to the other side of it, then maybe it wasn't so stupid, you know, kind of in a
Yeah.
utilitarian sense. I'm not trying to offend any Mormons,
Right. But I mean,
specifically.
there's that's the lighter side of consequentialism. And then there's also a darker side to consequentialism. So it doesn't matter what the means are as long as we get our ends. And I feel like,
But they
especially,
built America,
yeah,
and I think that's positive. I think they're, yeah, I guess I think that's truly interesting, and it's interesting in that like they know that their religion is ridiculous, but to some degree, every religion has something that's ridiculous in it.
for sure.
So yeah, I guess that. Whew. Okay, in terms of when you say a cult, like, do you mean Halloween stuff, or like you're actually trying to figure things out?
I mean, just spooky stuff.
Oh, okay.
I do I do have an interest in that kind of thing, and you turned me on to Sabotage Zevi and things like that.
You know the Sefer Yetzirah?
Whoa. No, I don't.
Okay, so I mean, there's silly stuff and there's real stuff, right? And so Sefer Yetzirah is um, the Hebrew language is before there was Hebrew language. There was, I think I sent it to you. There's Proto-Semitic, right?
Yes.
Which is a post-Egyptian language, and the Egyptian language is a magical rune language, right?
Right.
And so if you ever want to understand these runes, you can buy the Sefer Yetzirah on Amazon for about $20, and you can understand the meanings of the Hebrew letters, which are runes. And that's where all the magic starts. And I think that's the foundation, right? My Okay, yeah. My producer says that's the foundation.
Right.
And you're not gonna you know, Crowley is kind of towards the end, and he's a postmodernist in many ways, but postmodernists are annoying because if you've ever read Deleuze or Guattari, they're going to spiral you around in a circle, and I don't appreciate that. But here, you're going to be dealing with, I don't know, first century Kabbalists, probably. And then all of the Masonic stuff is going to start making more sense. So if you are interested, it's always there for you on Amazon. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I am. I need to get back into. I've been reading a lot of fiction, especially like indie author stuff, to see what's making them popular. I don't know if I have another fiction book in me at the moment. I've got a pretty full plate, but I have some ideas. But
What about Jurassic Park for your children?
actually, I have it on my shelf per your recommendation.
Oh, the Folio Society one?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. So
Sick.
we're gonna crack that open. My son's he's learning to read right now
Okay.
at school. Um, so we're getting through the rudiments of that. I think when he can read some passages alongside me, he'll be excited about it.
I learned to read from Pokemon, Game
Oh,
Boy.
nice. Yeah.
And I wanted to play Pokemon, and I wasn't good at reading at 6. But I really wanted to play Pokemon. And so I figured out those menus, like it's super effective and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Well, that was one way I got away with playing, a 30 or 40 hour Super Nintendo RPG back in the day. It's like,
yeah.
oh, there's text, there's vocabulary words in here. I'm 8 and I'm reading at a 16th grade level.
Yeah. So that's super cool. Okay, and then you had questions to me about Marxism.
I did, yeah.
Fuck
So
yeah. About
I
my different kind of Marxism. Why my Marxism is okay and you like it, but other Marxism is bad.
well, let me
Uh,
let me take a stab at it and
Please.
allow you to respond. So I think one, what's seductive about Marxism, especially for university students, is there's the classic Marxist professor who kind of browbeats a bunch of undergrads into giving this theory of politics maybe more mind than they ought to. However, the precepts of Marxism about the historical dialectic and the tension between labor and capital, it's a pretty good diagnosis. I think Marx's cure or his ideal of the utopia that emerges from there is completely misguided because it relies on the state being all.
Okay, let me sell you on the utopia. Um, so what I'll tell you is there's a tremendous surplus. There's a tremendous production, right?
Mhm.
So okay, think about Bitcoin.
Okay.
And okay, think about the price of Bitcoin and how high it is and how hard, people work to make commodities planned obsolescence, right?
Yes.
And how much stuff is purposefully wasted. So if we did not have a devalued dollar and we had access to cheap Chinese goods at the cost of production, we would be flooded with surplus, right?
Okay.
And we would have a completely different social structure. But you can see how hard they're trying to inflate currency so we don't accomplish our normal spending power. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I think part of that is the incentive of people at the central bank, the Cantillon effect, right? When you get that inflow of new capital, the inflation doesn't hit it, and you get to take a bigger piece of the pie. I have a pie chart that explains this, but basically, if you own $1, and the Federal Reserve owns $9, and then they go ahead and print 10 more dollars and get immediate access to that, that decreases your own purchasing power by an
Of
order of
course.
magnitude and increases their purchasing power. So they get to silently tax you and allocate the capital for their pet projects.
Right. So if we overthrow the central bank and you do it from what you believe to be a right wing standpoint, but I say, haha, that's Marxism. You overthrew the central bank. Then, boom, you're a Marxist. Gotcha. You know what I mean? I guess the same way that what it means to be American changes every decade. There's
Okay.
a lot of flavors of Marxism. And to some degree, it's an open question of what even is Marxism. There's a Chinese Maoist version. It's called revisionist blue hair version, right? There's a lot of flavor. I'm the old school Soviet totalitarian version, and sometimes they call me red fascist, and it hurts my feelings. But there's a there's a lot of, I guess, like Dugin calls himself like a right wing Marxist in this book, Templars of the Proletariat, which I just got. There's a couple of books which are batshit crazy. This one is there. I put our books in that category as well. And then there is also Julie Savola's Bow in the Club,
All right.
which really goes for it. But I guess the central point I would say is that we as the middle class are squeezed out by inflation, which they purposefully do. They're not even. I think they're doing inflation for the sake of inflation. They're not doing it like they don't really care what they spend their inflation money on. They just care about fucking us with inflation. You see what I'm saying? Um, Kind of a tough conversation,
Well, the
but
purpose of the system is what it does,
yeah,
right? It's, if you have people with just enough purchasing power to be renters and employees, rinse, repeat, then you have, a perfect consumer, which is what our economy is currently oriented to. There's not a lot of producers, and the amount of people who work for the government or a large corporation or syndicate has gone up like 3x since
so
1950.
that's a
Used to be a
Marxist
lot of
right there.
proprietary businesses, and there's not anymore.
You see, so what you just said, that's straight from capital. Like you can,
Yeah, but it's also who who calls the shots in there. So if I had to err on the side of, okay, there has to be an overwhelming referee to make sure that capital isn't stolen from the people, or there's zero referee and we're in a state of anarcho-capitalism, I think I would prefer that.
well, there's no referee because the referee gets bought out eventually, right?
Yeah,
And in a Hegelian dialectic, so there's a Platonic dialectic and a Hegelian dialectic. In a Platonic dialectic, things go back into a happy medium. In a Hegelian dialectic, it's three dimensional. It's a spiral. It's an entropic spiral where the world spins out into chaos. And so the idea is that they're going to spin out into chaos to the point of collapsing.
yeah, it's
You know,
important stuff. I mean, past performance does not guarantee future results, but maybe I pay too much attention to people hitting the panic button on Substack. Um, but yeah, there's certainly some challenging circumstances for many people in the Western world right now that are due in large part to some of the shitty policies we just discussed.
but but I guess now I'm pivoting you into politics, right? They're shitty for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's
They're
right.
shitty for you. But the purpose of the policy was to fuck you. So if you got fucked, then the policy worked as intended.
Right, right. I am enjoying your fell for it again conversation that you're engaging with people.
There is Simon Lard,
Yeah,
who
great guy.
is I think he's a good person morally. He's and he is a white American Protestant. So he's an American who's racially American like yourself, right? And he's bought into the political establishment. And I am trying to bait him into running off to Mexico before the whole thing in the U.S. collapses. Because, as you know, the Club of Rome is going to collapse the United States. This is a fact. I mean, you like conspiracies. And have you read Secret Weapons for Quiet Wars?
No, but I'm sure that some of my follows on social media have. There's a guy on YouTube, Interesting Books Reviewed,
Okay.
and he basically is in a bunker in Texas somewhere, very avuncular type of delivery, and talks about these things very matter of factly about underground bases, lost books of the Bible, JFK assassination, the Israel lobby, just a bunch of interesting things like that in a way where he's very hip to the censorship regime and gets around it and just a very good aw shucks
There,
sort of guy.
there,
I'm confident
there.
that that's something he would read if I can't get a recap from you.
So, so, so Simon Lard. Well, the way I understand populations is there's a population pyramid, and people like you and Simon Lard are some of the most productive people in American society, right? So, have you ever played any war games? Like,
Like Warcraft,
sure, that's Warcraft. Uh,
Starcraft, yeah.
okay, in Warcraft Frozen Throne, right? I would say the white, racially Protestant person is like the hero, the officer who
Okay.
would lead everyone there, right? And then towards the bottom, I guess I don't know there's immigrants, right? Sorry, immigrants, that I'm being racist right now.
I mean,
But
you understand too, right? You come here with nothing and you're at the bottom rung.
I guess. But the point being is that you and Simon Lard have the most contribute the most to the United States, but you're also, to quote my book, time rapist and energy vampire the most, right? And so I don't know. Sorry to be a dick. I'm kind of like waiting. My position is I'm kind of throwing the offer out there, like come join me in Mexico. And I think you, Simon Lard, are you familiar with Anthony Johnson? He
No.
he's big in the manosphere. He had the largest manosphere convention,
Okay.
and he had all kinds of manosphere together, and he tried to help men by crowdsourcing this whole thing. And so my position is that I'm going to keep saying, "Hey, like, come to Mexico, come to Mexico." And right now, I come across like a crazy person, but in 5 years I won't, and in 10 years you'll come to Mexico. You know what I mean?
I've
So
been meaning to ask you this. So you're not. I guess you wouldn't tell me straight if you were.
I
Uh,
would.
there's a maybe 10-20% part of me is like, is GLO a cult leader? Are you starting a cult?
I'm not starting a cult because I don't need my dick sucked. I
Okay.
don't. I don't need. I don't fucking care. Let me kind of tell you a story. So in the 1960s, 1970s, the Soviet Union was collapsing, right?
Right.
And a lot of Jews had an opportunity to fuck off to Israel, because there was a lot of money spent on bringing the Jews back, right? And so my grandfather had an opportunity to do that, but he was a high level professor. But some of his friends left. And a lot of the Jews who left told their Russian friends who were not Jewish at all, they said, yo, fucking pretend to be Jewish, come to Israel, stop being fucking, just shut the fuck up. Okay, just put on this fucking yarmulke, go to Israel, shut the fuck up. You're going to have a miserable fucking life. Just, just, Russia's going downhill. I know it's going downhill. Pretend to be Jewish, lie to the immigration Jew, and then, you could be in a country that's economically moving forward. And so there are a lot of ethnic Russians in Israel,
Interesting.
in Haifa. Some of them were the wives of Russian Jews who moved, and some of them were just some Jewish guy's friend who kind of was like, "Yo, like scam the system and just get the fuck out." So that's my relationship to you and Simon Lard and Anthony Johnson. I'm like, "Yo, like, get the fuck out, bro. Get the fuck out." My Jew sense, my Spider-Man Jew sense is tingling. Like, Get the fuck out. Um, so that's
Put
my
on the
relationship.
sombrero instead this time, eh?
What?
You want me to put on the sombrero?
You will, yeah. So you run over here, you put on a sombrero, and you keep doing whatever the fuck you've been doing all along. Because there is a Russian bacon dish called sala. It's a smoked pork. Russians and Ukrainians like it,
Okay.
right? And the Jews hate it because it's pork.
Right.
But there's so many Russians in Israel that they make the smoked pork very well, and the rabbis are flipping ass. So I guess so. In the 1960s, it was like put on a yarmulke and fuck off, put on the small hat and run away. I'm telling you guys to put on the big hat,
Okay.
put on the large hat, and get the fuck out.
Actually, can I show you what I've got in my office here?
Yeah, please.
So I got this in Colombia, and this is like my festival hat. But this is the
Yeah,
Colombian redneck hat, the Vuelteado, and man, would I like to have more occasion to wear it?
do it. Come here, come here, wear this hat, and save money on taxes. That's kind of my like. The feminists who've written against me put me in the kind of the crazy far right position. But over time, the crazy position will start seeming to be like the normal position.
Yeah. Well, you know, have you ever listened or read Nima Parvini?
No.
So he has a YouTube channel called Academic Agent. Hang on.
Well, I think I've seen Academic Agent.
Yeah, so the same guy. He wrote a book called The Populist Delusion, which is like the Machiavellians, Burke, guys like that. And then another one called Prophets of Doom, which is about, the antithesis of progressive situation was, hey, civilization goes up. We've only believed that for like the last 120 years. Everybody else understood that civilization kind of moves in cycles, ups and downs.
Sure.
Um, but there's one of his videos like 2 years ago that inspired my nom de guerre, which is Centaur right satire. And he said, look, you got to stop calling yourself the dissident right or the radical right. You're actually the sensible censor. And getting people, hooking the bait enough for normies and getting them engaged in a way, you're not going to win them over with logic and reason. But if you show them that by living well, you show them receipts of living well, that's going to start to tantalize people. And I know you're living well down there. I'm doing okay. I just
So,
I
so
have a
that's
little bit. I have a little bit more of the boulder to push uphill before I can make a drastic change like that.
so my strategy with you know I you know I have a racially Jewish instinct to get the fuck out early,
Yeah.
right? So the Jews who weren't as paranoid as I am racially are all dead. Whereas I'm the most paranoid, right? And you wrote a paranoia conspiracy book, and I also wrote a paranoia conspiracy book, right?
Right.
And when I mailed you my paranoia conspiracy book, I didn't think you were going to mail me back another paranoia conspiracy book. And I didn't expect to get books back. Like, what the fuck? Like, and then I was like, well, like, if I'm mailing conspiracy books, someone's going to mail them back to me. What goes around comes back around. Cool. I deserve this. Then I was like, then I'm reading your conspiracy book because you read my conspiracy book, right? Um, so I guess, but the Spider-Man Jew sense is tingling, and all the Jews are leaving very quickly. And from a globalist standpoint, you are expected to go down with the ship, like the Russians did.
Right.
Actually, the Russians aren't doing well, and there's a lot of people who look like my grandparents um, getting blown up in buses and also digging in trash cans.
Yep.
And so I saw that with my own eyes, and I was like, yo, when the globalists detonated a society, they really do it. And I saw that happen to my grandparents' friends, and I saw that happen to my parents' friends. And I was like, oh fuck, they're doing it again. Let's get the fuck out again, right? So so then
I'm looking at the map here.
yeah,
Like, what's the end game of everything getting hollowed out? Is it just going to be 10,000 people living in Peter Thiel's floating yacht, or are they all going to move to Dubai? Like, what's the next America? Because I don't think it's going to be Mexico.
it's gonna be China.
Yeah,
It's
unfortunately.
it's gonna be China because the Club of Rome said that Asians are very compliant people, and they don't have this kind of hard individualism that pushes back on things.
Right.
But Mexico is going to do well because it's heavily industrializing right now. They're building ports. They're investing a lot of money into industrializing, and so they wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't going to turn out well. And also, a lot of Chinese are moving here,
Interesting.
so there's a lot of Chinese factories here. And then I see Chinese on the streets sometimes, and they're not Asian Americans. They're just Chinese who speak Spanish with a Chinese accent.
Okay.
Um, so Mexico is going to do well because they're industrializing. And when you come here, I think I'll convince you. You'll just join the upper middle class, and it. What happened for me when I was writing in the Red Pill, um, there were kind of there's the rational center. Like there was Rollo Tomasi. There was this guy Whisper. There's a guy Archwinger who was all in Substack,
Oh,
and
yeah, by the way,
yeah,
Ryan Stone blocked me.
good. Fuck him. What a fucking
Asshole.
bitch. Do you know? I mean, did he do anything to antagonize him or?
Um, he was actually talking shit about you, and I was just like, actually, he's pretty funny. And if you read his book, and he just blocked me.
But I mean, you're not. How do I put this? I have aggressive tendencies, right?
I rarely antagonize people online. It's
I think you're like a good-hearted person from what I understand of you. I don't can't see you like pushing Rion in the sand, on the ground and throwing sand in his face.
yeah,
What did you do to Rion?
yeah, that was basically it. And that, yeah, I guess I'm not gonna read his book on Kindle now. It looks great, by the way. I'm not gonna not talk shit about that. It's like
I
a
will.
dystopia called
I'll talk shit all day.
well,
Uh,
if somebody's talented at writing, it's like for example, people like to shit on Stephen King, but he's done more than you, especially if you're a writer. And some of the books are actually quite great. Now his politics are what you would expect to be a 70-year-old New England woman, and he can't help that.
so you just said something positive about me, and then Rion flipped out on you.
Yeah,
I
as
think
far as I can tell.
what
That's as far as I can tell.
well, he was in the red pill, and his wife's obese, and he's a beta male. And my original fight with him was actually nothing wild. He kept saying that the red pill is not an ideology, and I said anti-feminism is an ideology by definition. And there's a lot of positions that you're taking that which are clearly ideological, and he would not concede that point because he wants to live in his world of being correct all the time, like a beta male. And that was in 2015.
That's a dictionary issue. Like that's not even a hill to die on.
He
Semantics.
he wouldn't he wouldn't concede basic definitions because they threaten his ego. And then I was like, look,
Okay.
if your definitions aren't good, then but anyway, so
Well, he tried with arbitration and now he's in jail. Sorry. Right? That must drive your lawyer brain insane.
the red pill had a certain red pill center of him and Rollo, and I had a more conspiratorial position. And they're saying, haha, this guy's so funny, blah, blah, blah. And then the pandemic happened.
Right.
And when the pandemic happened, I said, ha, It wasn't a fucking conspiracy. You're a bunch of blue pill losers, and they are out to get you, and you do need to get the fuck out, and your feminist wife's in on it. And they ignored it, and I was like, oh, are you gonna ignore information? That's repression. That's blue pill. Go fuck yourself. And then they ran off to YouTube and started yelling at prostitutes. Because that's what makes Rollo likes to yell at prostitutes. They like to yell at prostitutes because that makes them feel like a big, strong man.
Mm.
And they never addressed any of my claims. And a lot of them got vaccinated. So whatever. They got vaccinated. Whatever happens to them happens to them. But I guess what I'm saying is that you're on the fringe until there's an event, right?
Sure.
In a Badu sense or in a Leninist sense, and that event is going to requilt, which is to say politically restructure. So, this is kind of an annoying position to take, but I'm doing it with your best interest in mind. Is I'm inviting you to Mexico, and I'm waiting for that event, which is going to bring you over to Mexico.
Yeah. Well, look, man.
So
I want to visit. We're going to visit. I got this lovely picture here on my desk of you and your Consuela, your Novia.
me and my Novia, and it's nice. You'll like it. I think your kids are gonna like it. We got nice beaches here, and I guess when my grandparents moved to the U.S., like they had to change who they were to adjust to this American identity. But you already got a sombrero.
That's right. Well, and
So
also, people don't realize how insidious the American identity has become worldwide. Uh, in Western or Western adjacent countries, um, I don't think the cultural chasm is that great. So, that's
you
that's
you
the result of globalism. It's not globalism, it's Americanism.
you you continue being an American. Like there's the Sinaloa identity is kind of like a cooler Texan identity.
Okay. I thought that was a
Uh,
game. What's Sinaloa?
Sinaloa is a state in Mexico,
Okay. But,
which is south of Texas,
right.
and like they have the same attire as Texans, but cooler. Like
Right.
instead of having leather boots, you get like a
Rattlesnake. Yeah.
rattlesnake leather boots and stuff. Mexicans kind of do it a little bit bigger, and there is this brand called Quadra, and they're big.
Okay.
Like they do like alligator leather. Like I got an alligator leather wallet for like $150 here.
Okay.
Like good, like not like shitty alligator, like good. Or my friend got like I think he got like python leather boots and stuff for $300, which is
Yeah.
the cost of normal boots in the U.S., right? And so all of my friends are, who've come here. Um, I've convinced people to come here. We're slowly moving into the Sinaloa identity.
Okay.
Um, and what's good about the Sinaloa identity is people in Sinaloa, they're more European racial.
Okay.
So North Mexico is more European. So if we dress Sinaloa, we can blend in with the Mexicans better because they're like, oh, this is just like a North Mexican, like
Right.
whatever, right? So, um, so I, so when you come here, you should be a white Mexican with me, and you can wear a big cowboy hat and python leather boots, which you'll buy for $300, which is not a lot of money anymore. And so
Fortunately.
whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah.
If you're really going to spend $300 on American boots or Python leather boots, they might as well be Python leather. And the guy at the Quadra store, like there's like obviously a Mexican guy there. He's like, "Hey man, it's Python, it's Python," and he looks at you, and you're like, "I could be that guy."
Right. Yeah.
So what I'm saying
Mexican
is, you could be that guy. You could be the Python leather boot guy in 5 to 10 years when you reinvent yourself.
That's right.
So that's what I'm saying. And I guess in the same way that the Mormons reinvented themselves from Puritans, into Mormons, which, Mormon identity is way cooler than Puritan identity, in my opinion, whatever
Oh,
that counts
sure.
for. You can be the Python leather boot guy, and you can be the guy the 5-year-old self wanted you to be.
That's right. Yeah, that article spoke to me, especially as, you know, 4 and 6 average them out. Just like,
So,
right.
but I guess that, like every crisis is an opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you did it before. I feel like you're in a position of crisis, but I mean, my words of reassurance is that you have this very strong ability to build these worlds for yourself, and that's your strength. And I think that's what's going to get you through. So
Yeah. I appreciate that, man.
yeah.
Went through the 5 stages pretty quickly, and now it's just like, all right, the worst thing you can do is watch the clock. So stay busy.
What about the Python leather boot stage of grief?
Python leather. I guess that's bargaining and then acceptance, right?
You accept those boots.
That's right.
You gotta accept those boots. And I don't know. It's on one hand it's stupid, but on the other hand, like on one hand, all fantasy is stupid, and I think Python boots are stupid. But on the other hand, you're either in a fantasy or you're in an anti-fantasy. Grief is also an anti-fantasy, right?
Right.
Um. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's like I think about like have you been following Simon Lard? Like he's eh, how do I phrase this? I don't want to be a dick to him. He's a good Protestant kid,
Okay.
but he starts posting this hateful stuff, and we're in the Dark Simon plot line, which I
Uh,
enjoy.
well, look. One of the in his defense, I almost fell for it because
Uh oh,
there's so
good.
much.
Don't fall for it.
But look, man, it was I guess about a year ago. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, and I was convinced that there were like feral Haitians in the streets of Akron
Okay.
barbecuing cats. And while that was not demonstrably true, it was a really good idea, a really good example of how consequentialist propaganda can work for the right. It was bullshit, but it was heuristically true. It was a great metaphor for unbridled immigration and lack of assimilation. That's kind of how I squared it. With the Charlie Kirk thing, it's just like, oh my God, like this guy was clearly assassinated by some nefarious. I mean, as you pointed out, he's right there in the spot of, the
He was in the menorah. Sorry, I know you don't want to say it.
yeah,
I'll say it. He
yeah,
was in a menorah. Do
yes,
you know how a
slaughtered.
menorah works, by the way?
Yeah, you light from the center, right?
You light from the center, so things got lit from the center.
Yeah. So I wrote an article about it was called "The Lamb Who Cried Wolf," and basically radical leftists as monsters, and the monsters cackled so loudly when this bright young man died that their masks fell off, and the normies, tired of being bullied, rose up and decided to do some of their own bullying. But if you read it carefully, what the normies do is they kill these other people and then they eat them. So they
Well,
by destroying the were people, they become vampires.
well, let's
Right.
talk about something else, and maybe this
Okay.
can be our conclusion.
Sure.
Okay, so this is actually dead serious. So there are Kabbalistic ritual books, and the way it works is this: Judaism, like every other religion, is a composite of the religions that came before it,
Yep.
right? So Judaism came out of the Egyptian religion, the Babylonian religion, the Canaanite religion, and those religions, the Zoroastrian religion, have very powerful rituals, right? Um, the indigenous Aztec people here would cement their political rule by murdering someone on a pyramid, right? So that's a ritual, and that ritual continued their political rule. So there is a book. It's called Book of Secrets. Period. Full stop. It's, um, it's called Sefer Hazarim. Sefer means book. Hazarim is like secrets. And I have an article coming out on Monday. And there is a ritual that you do to convince a crowd. And you need to sacrifice, and it's all metaphorical. A young lion with a heart of gold with a bronze knife, right? And the Charlie Kirk situation is that ritual,
Right.
which you could call it Jewish, but it's probably a ritual that they got from Babylon. And Persians are very smart people, so they understand psychological dynamics, right? And then afterwards, you're supposed to write his name on someone's forehead in blood, whatever that means. But you saw the funeral was a ritualistic situation, right? And I think as a Mormon, you know what rituals look like because you've been through them. And
Catholic now. Grandfathers
okay,
were Mormon. They married non-Mormons.
okay. Well, so as a Catholic, you know what rituals look like, and so they were doing these rituals, and they had the desired effect on people of radicalizing them into whatever globalist thing they're going to be doing next.
Right.
But that is magic. It's you create a spectacle, and you expend blood and vital energy, and so in that sense, it's very real. And don't fall for it.
Right. Well, didn't Crowley and Bernays run in the same circles?
Sure.
Yeah, it's just so interesting. Like, oh, the magic of reading, the magic of influence, and it's just like actually this stuff has some pretty dire portents when you think about it. Because it seems so reading rainbow type of shit, but like you go into some of those old books, and this is the way people really felt before everything was so diluted by mass media.
Well, that's they there is an emotional energy which they harvest for their thing, and
Are you a David Icke guy?
I like David Icke. I I I I like his presentation. You
Okay.
know, um, I regardless of how much I agree with someone, if they have a strong aesthetic, I like them.
Okay. I think we're exactly in the same boat there. Um, it's sort of that's sort of the other side of the coin of separating the art from the artist. You kind of separate the argument from the aesthetic, and that's why I think Nietzsche's popularity is so enduring. Is because, like yourself, writes in a very clear but polemic style, and that's why nobody fucking wants to read Heidegger.
Heidegger is an elitist, and he is incredibly depressed. But I think there's a book. It's called Man and His Techniques, which is clear, and Arctos does a good job.
Okay,
Um,
I'll give the old guy another shot.
but I, I think you should read Politics and Terra first. I also think you should read this Sefer Yetzirah. Sefer Yetzirah right away, because I think you're trying to figure out how this whole thing works, um, and that will give you a general feeling for it,
Yeah,
because it's that book's kind of like a math book, realistically.
right. Well,
Uh,
reading stuff like that, it makes you a better writer. And the more you can expose people, like my idea is to expose people to out of bounds ideas in a either a fun or exciting way. Um, what I do on Substack is usually pretty silly, but also trying to make it clear enough that people connect with laughter or amusement and then start interrogating some of this stuff on their own. It's more of an invitation rather than an argument.
A lot of times people will go for your aesthetic more than they will your argument, right?
Yeah.
The argument is whatever. Like I think, like let's say with you, right? Like I'll convince you to move to Mexico once you see Mexico. Like I could be like, look, like how much you're paying in taxes, and then you'd say a number, and then I'd be like, okay, and I'd show you this number, and you'd be like, I'd have an extra $40,000 to $80,000 a year, and then given that cost of living is significantly lower here, right? You would take however much money you would save, multiply by, and then effectively you would have this much more cash, right? So that's my logical argument that I'd make for you.
Yeah.
My emotional argument is we would just go rent a boat, and then your kids would go on a boat, and they would have fun, like snorkeling, looking at fish and stuff. And your wife would be happy in this kind of warm tropical water, and that argument would work better. And I know because that's how I usually convince people to move.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Drag.
so that's what it is. So I guess that I'm trying to think of how to wrap up our amazing conversation. I think that let's kind of go. You're a great writer. You have an amazing imagination, and I know in the right people talk about being a rational alpha male or how to measure your penis like a rational alpha male. But I think you're going to convince more people from your imagination, from your aesthetic. And what I appreciate about your book is that you made a strong push for an aesthetic, right? For strong color, you know, your I think you understand your color wheel very well, where the colors hook in together. Um, so I think that I think you try and convince people through reason, but I think you and me have an amazing aesthetic, and that's how we're gonna win.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm gonna keep trucking and keep doing what you're doing. Stay in touch.
Stay
Filled.
in touch, and yeah, I think you're doing great, and I I can understand what you're going through, and but I think you're believe it or not, you're equipped very well for it. And if you could write a book, you can do it. I know you through your book, and I know you can do it. So
Oh yeah,
until next time, thank you so much for everything. I believe
appreciate
in
it.
you, and
All
come
right,
visit
man.
me. Bye.
Betcha.
Have a wonderful evening.
All right, bye.